Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low Magazine? Because 4Low Magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. All right, we're here today with Conversations with Big Rich with none other than Jeremy Hammer. Jeremy is the owner of Flying High Off-Road. We are in Phoenix, Arizona, in his shop and office, and we're going to talk about Jeremy's beginnings of life and how he got into motorsports and especially into the rock sports. So, Jeremy, let's start at the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
Well, hello. Yeah, I grew up in Arizona here. Went to school in Mesa. We moved out here when I was 2 years old, so I'm originally from Michigan, Dearborn, actually. My grandfather worked for Chrysler for 41 years, and when he retired, the family kind of came out to help him move, and my parents stopped in Phoenix and fell in love with the valley. So we moved out here when I was 2 years old, and I haven't been back to see any of those lovely snowstorms or anything like that. I'm definitely an Arizona guy, love the rocks, love the desert. And if it gets too cold, I grow feathers and start heading down south. So went to high school here in Mesa, and then ended up at Scottsdale Community College playing football there, and then off to Arizona State, where I played football in the early 90s. And once I was done with football and school and everything, I was working for a dealership selling cars, and I met my wife. So the automotive industry has been good with me with not only making a business and a life, but also building a family. So it's brought me together with a lot of great people. From the dealerships, I ended up working for a tire distributor here, and then a body shop, and kind of ping-ponged around a little bit. I even sold computers for a little bit, and always kind of got toward back to the automotive and off-road industry. I came to Flying High as a customer and met my best friend who's was working the counter, and we hit it off right away, and we've been friends ever since. So Flying High was doing some work on a vehicle that I had, ended up walking into their fab shop and seeing a trophy truck. They were building it for them, and I said, I want to get involved in this. They said, we work on it Tuesday and Thursday nights is our race night. If you want to come by and help us, we'd love to have you. From there, I met all the guys here at Flying High, and met the original owner of Flying High. Did a lot of desert racing with them, chasing their trophy truck and having fun and success with that. Kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. I've always been into rock crawling. Back when my parents first moved out here, we bought a 74 Ram Charger, and my dad take us four-wheeling and camping and all that stuff. So I was in love with anything four-wheel drive. Around that same time, my uncle took me down the drag strip in his 74 Challenger, and just pretty much anything with a motor I was in love with. We went to boat races and motorcycle racing and that sort of stuff. Didn't participate a lot, was mostly just a enthusiast, but I always enjoyed working on cars. While I was in high school, another uncle owned an automotive shop, so I spent a lot of time wrenching down there, doing stuff for him, helping them out, and it's always been in the blood. So fast forward back to the Flying High and getting to know the guys over here. the racing kind of ended for them. They weren't doing a lot of racing, but we were still doing a lot of rock crawling and building our rigs up. The guys around here, I found out that he wanted to sell it. With that, I was kind of in the market to buy a business. I had some family members that wanted to go into business with me. Believe it or not, the day that I found out that Flying High was for sale, we were looking at a paint supply store. So this whole story could have been different of me selling paints, but we ended up putting together a deal with the original owner, and we're a franchisee of Flying High, so we're able to use the name and do what we want with it. You know, it's been a struggle just because the industry's up and down, mostly down. Right, we bought it right around 2006, and the economy was taking a dive with all the mortgage things, and we just kept on, you know, paying the rent and making all the ends meet. About 10 years ago, they just my partners decided they wanted out, so now it's just been me running the things and having fun with it, and my family loves it. We love the customers, we love the industry, we love going out to events, we love talking Jeep, we love talking truck, tires, all that other fun stuff. Both my daughters want Jeeps and all that stuff so they can go out and four-wheel, and they're getting to age where I got to start putting together some Jeeps for them. But it's been a good life, and we've really enjoyed it. We got to do some racing, and, you know, got to meet great people like Big Rich and Shelly, and get out to events with them and help them out with their thing. And I really enjoy the people coming from the football background. Everything was for a team, so I find that a lot with the people I hang around with in this industry. Everybody's working towards a common goal, and that's getting the car across the finish line. Whether it's the finish line is just getting out and wheeling and having a good day with friends out in the desert, or getting across the finish line at the Baja 1000. We're trying to do all that stuff, and I'm always into it.
So let's go back and pick it apart. Did you have a motorcycle when you were younger, or go-kart or something like that, or did you all of a sudden just get, you know, what was your first car? You know, what was that background? What was it that besides your uncle and Ram Charger and stuff, where were you?
So, yeah, unfortunately, when I was around 7 or 8, my parents got a divorce, so I didn't get all the cool stuff. You know, didn't get I don't have the Robbie Gordon background where we're going motorcycle racing and doing all that stuff. My background was just I changed the oil for my mom. You know, she needed an oil change in her Oldsmobile, and I figured out how to do that. You know, just taking care of mom's car, and that actually got my uncle kind of involved and started teaching me how to wrench and that sort of thing. So, you know, I like like to go back and think about those early days and trying to put something together. I always had a car, never had a truck. You know, I lucked into getting my first car was look this up, everybody. It's a 79 Plymouth Fire Arrow. And it's going to be a hard one to find. They didn't build a lot of them, but that's what my uncle traded in that 74 Challenger when the gas prices went nuts in 79. He traded in that beautiful 446 pack for this car. I thought it was the coolest car on the planet because it was my first car, but look it up. It's they're ugly as sin, but it got good gas mileage, and it was 5-speed. So I had a lot of fun with it. Rear wheel drive, did a lot of drifting. In fact, I drifted too much one time going to football practice and rolled the car over. So my uncle also taught me a little bit of body work, and we cut the roof off and put a new roof on it. So that was I hate body work. That's what I learned from that. But that's how that's my first car. It's nothing cool, no cool Jeep or Commando or anything awesome. I've got buddies that all had Broncos and that sort of thing, and I still had my car. And that kind of goes back to my early days. You know, a lot of my friends had BMX bikes or motorcycles or something, and lots of desert out here in Arizona. And my aunt gave me a 12-speed when I was 10 years old, and it was a nice bike if I wanted to go 100 miles an hour. And nobody could beat me in a race on the street, but it wasn't made for jumping. And my mom put a lot of money into rims and tires because I would blast that thing all the time, try to do the jumps. And I was always a bigger kid, so I was a little hard on parts. neighborhood kids, we always built skateboard ramps and that sort of thing. And I was a little too big. I could teach the guys how to do it. Like I could figure out how to do the moves, but me doing it myself, I ended up breaking myself or breaking the ramp, and a couple times to the emergency room with some head trauma.
So that explains a lot.
There's definitely been some trips there where I got a little dizzy. But I kind of knew early on that I wasn't going to be that guy on a motorcycle. Just being as big as I was, there's a top heaviness on a motorcycle that they scare me to death. But those kids that learn how to ride motorcycles early on, they're some of the best race car drivers and that sort of thing. We're watching one develop here with a good friend of mine, Ken Goodall's son, who races Ultra 4 and Dirt Riot and all that. He was a motorcycle rider and he's now a great Ultra 4 driver, and he's up and coming. So it's cool to watch him develop and just one of those. Another cool part of the sport is seeing the kids grow up and also helping your friends racing out there and that sort of thing.
Okay, so let's talk about your football, because that I know is a big. It molded you to who you really are. The team sports, all that kind of stuff. You started before high school. Did you play youth football?
Well, another problem with
being big,
being big and being raised by a mother, we lived right behind Mesa High School, and they had all the Pop Warner practices on the other side of our fence, and there wasn't a day that went by where there wasn't a ambulance taking a kid out of there. And my mom saw that early on, and she would not let me play football. I got to play flag football and soccer, and I had a soccer coach tell me, this is not your sport. All that running around.
The goal.
Yeah. All the running around. I was a big kid with no stamina at that time. I couldn't run for very long. Yeah, I kicked the ball 10 miles, but running and chasing and all that stuff. So soccer wasn't my sport. I play a lot of basketball, a lot of baseball, but the football that I just wasn't. She wouldn't allow me to, and I don't take anything back. I wish I would have got a couple more years before high school, because I tell you what, freshman football, they rocked my world. I was the biggest kid on the team, and I'm going against kids that have been playing since they were 5 and 6, and half my size, and they would just rock me because I had no idea what I was doing out there. It took me till about my senior year to finally figure out the game a little bit. Just based on my sheer size, I got scholarships to a community college here in Scottsdale. So I went over there, and I just lucked out right at the time. ASU had just changed their coaching staff, so we got the defensive line coach that was the defensive line coach at Arizona State. He also happened to be a girl that I tried to date in high school's father. So and he remembered me, and we actually I've been good friends with him and that entire family for a long time. So but he kind of molded me a little bit more and made me better. And then I got a chance to go to Arizona State, someplace that I wanted to play football at since I was a kid. I had scholarship offers all over the country, but they kind of knew that I was an Arizona State kid. My mom had season tickets from the day we moved out here in '74. So I went to Arizona State, had one of the best defensive line coaches out there. He's actually been coaching in the NFL to this day. I don't know. I guess even when you're 19, 20. I grew up in 6 months, just having him as a coach. Lots of discipline and anger. Like you put a helmet on me and there's this anger that comes out. Not so much in a racing helmet because it costs too much money when you're racing out there.
Unless it's a cone.
Unless it's a cone. I love hitting cones. That you taught me that. But we put a helmet on me and I changed a little bit. It was definitely Coach Marinelli was just a machine. He was an ex-Vietnam vet, and he was wired different, for sure, wired different, and he wired us all a little bit different. Just to kind of answer that question, what kind of molded me. I mean, I could start back in high school. My first coach, junior high, my first coach there, kind of said, hey, if you want to be a kid that plays football or you want to be a kid that watches TV, so I was in that transition of the kid watching TV all day to now running lifting weights and doing all that stuff. So grew up a little bit there, and then every coach from there definitely molded me a lot. And it kept me out of trouble too, because I was at that age where I was starting to get in trouble. You had all your friends smoking and thinking they were cool, and then they were smoking stuff they shouldn't be smoking. And I kind of knew I wanted to play football, so I hung around with them, but I stayed away from it. I didn't touch any of that stuff. They had us scared to death back then that you're going to get in trouble if you were smoking anything or doing anything. So I didn't drink, didn't smoke, and just kind of kept my head straight, because I always had that goal where I wanted to go. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to play in the NFL. Still had some schooling left to do, and I had met my wife at the time, and I could see my life going in a different direction. And there's definitely no guarantees in football. I look back at that, and now I'm in my 40s, late 40s, and thinking, if I put out a little bit more back then, would things be a little different? But I don't know if my girlfriend would have stuck around, because there's a lot of sacrifices you got to do, and we were just building our relationship at the time. So, I chose that, and I don't hold anything about it. I got 2 beautiful daughters now, a great life, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I lay down in bed every once in a while, and a tear goes down my face thinking about, what could have been, playing football, especially this time of year, being September. The grass smells different. Mowing my lawn, it's weird. It smells different. It smells like the first days of football season and football practice, and you start to reminisce, and then there's a lot of hype going on TV, and that one show. There's a show on TV on HBO where they do the Hard Knocks, and it's the story about these guys coming into training camps and stuff, and I watch that, and that gets me going too. So I can see somewhere down the road I'm gonna get into coaching. I'm enjoying this life right now, but don't hesitate. Down the road, you might see this big old guy yelling at younger kids on a football field somewhere. So I will get back to it. It's just I'm having fun doing this now, and you can only race for so long before your body can't take it anymore.
Exactly. I have to say the 4 or 5 years that I coached my son in youth sports, youth football, were some of the coolest years that I had, even more so than scouting or anything. And I mean, I did a lot as a scout, and the coaching, being able to take kids and teach them something and get them to do something that they don't want to do. And then when the light switch comes on, and all of a sudden they become the aggressor and not afraid of being hurt, but wanting to put the hurt on the other kid, I know that those are the kind of things that society now frowns upon, but the hell with that.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a good sport to teach kids good ethics, I think.
Yeah. I think it definitely it's the team building. A lot of the stuff I've been in the corporate world, so just being able to work with other people, I think it teaches you a lot of that. It teaches you to rely on that guy next to you, and also understand that guy next to you is relying on you. So even in my everyday life with running flying high, it's cool to teach these young kids. We get young kids from the college UTI here that we teach them how to wrench, and they're learning the book side, but we're teaching them the actual working on the car side. You got to rely on the guy that tore the truck down and the guy that is putting it back together. And whenever you're doing your work, get your stuff done correctly. So it's lots of stuff transfers over. Lots of it transfers over in life, in relationships with women. It's you take away all the head blows and crash it into each other. But once again, you've got to be there for them. You've got to produce, and that's kind of what I took out of football, and what kind of keeps me going in my daily life. As the world is crashing around us and all that stuff, you can see the guys that maybe should have had a little more sports in their life out there, that they might be changing their ways on what they're doing.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's go back to automotive side. What was your first car? Not the Arrow. Yeah, you had an Arrow.
79 Plymouth Arrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first 4-wheel drive?
Oh, okay. So that was years back, or years after. So I had the the 79 Arrow, and then at ASU, one of the guys that got drafted in the NFL gave me his car, which was a 89 Plymouth Firebird, which was cool. Had the T-tops and everything, but only had a V6 in it. But, you know, it's another cool car. And within a year or two after football was over, both those cars were broke down, and I was riding my wife's uncle's motorcycle that he brought down from Minnesota just to get to and from work and all that stuff. I didn't even have a motorcycle's license or anything like that. So
I think we've all done that.
oh yeah. I finally got the endorsement years and years later, but yeah, back then I got pulled over a couple of times and got some nice tickets, but it was nice because you could park the thing anywhere. So we decided we needed to have something. My wife had a Honda CRX. She was my girlfriend at the time, and that was a tiny little car. We had fun in it. I mean, we went scuba diving, so loaded a bunch of scuba gear in there and drove to California and learned how to scuba dive. We did trips to Grand Canyon. We'd camp all over the place, that little tiny car, and we'd overload it. It was funny. It didn't even have a back seat, and we'd always put our nephews and stuff in the back. This is a totally different time back then, kids, so don't do this at home anymore. But just had a blast in that car, and I always wanted a four-wheel drive, and we had the opportunity. We saved up some money and got a loan, and together we bought a 91 Ford Explorer, and four-door, black, had a manual shifting transfer case, so I didn't have to worry about all that electronic crap, and I knew when I saw it that this was my truck. And my wife loved it because it had a little sunroof. Together we had that kind of the truck of our dreams four-wheel drive, and started to do a lot more off-roading. And the funny story about it, we were off with some friends that worked at the dealership with us, and she looks at me and she says, "We really should put a lift kit on this thing." And that's all she needed to say, because they were expensive, you know, back then, and especially for a Ford Explorer, because they were a little crazy. So I actually contacted, this was before Flying High, before I knew anybody here, one of the dealership that we worked at would use older company that was older than Flying High, that was here in the Valley, called Four Wheeler Supply. And we knew a person over there, and she gave me a good deal on a super lift kit. So I bought all the pieces over time and had everything at the house, and spent 2 weekends putting that thing on. And now we're off doing even more four-wheeling. And it's that never-ending cycle of building your truck. And we went from that to putting lockers in it, to changing the gear ratios, to the bigger tires and all that stuff. And then they've got that twin traction I-beam that just was horrible. Got tired of breaking things in that. I had another opportunity to buy a Ford Super Duty that I still drive to this day, and I bought that, and then I was able to kind of take the Ford Explorer apart, and we did a solid axle conversion, and that's when I started hanging around the guys at Flying High. They helped me put the solid axle conversion in it. We ended up doing an Atlas transfer case, changed
all
out the
that
motor.
in an Explorer?
We did a lot. It wasn't even an Explorer anymore. It was 1-ton axles, full width on 39s. And it drove over everything. It was huge. And we had a blast. All my buddies had Broncos and Jeeps, and we would follow them, you know, everywhere. We went to Rubicon and did the week-long trip at Rubicon, and my truck was the one that held all the gear, because if it rained or anything, I had plenty of room in there. And we just squeezed that big old thing into any place we could. And then it started to get some body damage, because, you know, we're doing harder and harder trails, and it started to look like a raisin. It was black, and it was all the windows were blown out, and it was getting crinkled up. And we always do the Bronco Stampede that they do out here. And I know it's not a Bronco, but I called it the Bronco 3, because they had the Bronco 1 and the Bronco 2, a full-size Bronco. So I said, this is the Bronco 3, and had a lot of Bronco-esque parts on there. So we were out doing that trip one time and just ripped the whole steering box off, and screwed up the ram. And when I was backing up, I screwed up a leaf spring and had to get, you know, pretty much towed off the trail. And at that time I said, I don't know, I think I want to build a buggy or something. This is just too much. So I had it sitting here at Flying High. I'd owned Flying High at this time. And we went out to the second time they ran King of the Hammers. I heard about it, and it was like a Wednesday night, and I'm like, well, let's go tomorrow. And we left Thursday after work, drove all night. Got there, woke up to the motors running and everything, and I came home from that trip, and I said, I'm going to gut this thing and let's build a race car. Let's go racing. So I talked to my good buddy Sam Steinman, my best friend that I met, here at Flying High.
Your enabler?
Yeah, my enabler. He says yes too much, but I talked with him. I called him on the phone and I said, I really want to do this. What do you think? And he had worked on the trophy truck, the Flying High trophy truck with me, and there's lots of hours in that. And we both knew what was going to be involved in building a car from scratch. So the conversation went something like, you talk to your wife tonight, I'll talk to mine, and I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. So I think I called him at 5 a.m. the next morning and said, my wife said yes. What'd your wife say? And he says, she said, let's do it. And so we scheduled a meeting with all of our friends that had ever done any wrenching with us over at my house. And I fed them pizza and beer, and all the wives got drunk on wine, and we got everybody slathered up. And then we explained to them, this is what we're going to do. And we had 2 months or 3 months to build the car.
Wow. Started
from a pile of tubing on the ground, and yeah, we built it. And it's, we call it our smiles. We get more miles per smile or smiles per mile than a lot of the teams out there, because it's not. It probably was competitive in 2011, but nowadays it's the money that's involved in this sport. It's just it's crazy. I've got everything I got into it. I don't think we can go any deeper without a huge sponsor or something like that. But we're having fun out there. We still as long as I finish in a better than we started. We just did the race in Moab, and I started 34th or something like that and finished 17th. So we're happy with that. Most of the guys that I passed they were broken, but we did pass the three cars that started in front of us on the first lap. So, that's what it's all about, and that's what makes it fun. And, those little wins and stuff like that, and the pressure that these bigger teams have with they've got to win, they've got to show, they've got to, be everywhere. We just keep smiling and passing them, or smiling and finishing. And that's what my car can do. And it's junkyard parts and lots of sweat, and we have a good time with it. It's enabled us to do a lot of racing that I wouldn't normally do. We've raced in cool places, the big house is the one that I want to do next, Crandon. So I was trying to get to it with the Dirt Riot, so maybe cross our fingers we'll have something out there again someday. But I got to race at Glen Helen. I've raced the same course, the Baja 1000. We did Nora. I've done a bunch of racing in Mexico, because we're really close to the border here in Phoenix. So there's lots of desert racing around us. Done the Mint in the car, so it's an old battle axe, and it's comfortable. That's why I haven't really changed anything with it, because I'm in the unlimited class, and it's really because of the shocks. The limiting factor in our racing is our budget. So I usually have enough to get the car put back together, have some spare parts made, and fill everything up with gas. So anything more than that, we kind of, thank God we run a Ford engine, because we don't have to change it every 3 times a race like some of the other guys. But everything's built for durability, and we're running the same chassis we built before, so it's not a super light chassis by any means, but it holds up to the abuse we put them through.
Excellent. So let's talk about your first attempt at competitive rock crawling.
You would bring that up.
Of course. It was I remember putting on an event at Tucson on a man-made course that we had built. I got a call from one of the Undertakers, which was a club that you're involved with here in Arizona. It was Andrew McLaughlin, who races as well in Ultra 4, or had. I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but he called me up and said, hey, we're going to bring some club members down, and we want to run the hard courses. We don't want to run the easy courses. And I said, well, you guys don't have competitive rock crawlers, but we are the extreme club in Arizona, and we want to run the hard courses. And I said, okay. I made a deal with him. Then on Saturday, the first day, you guys would run the C courses, which were the mod stocks and sportsman courses. And then If you guys just totally kicked ass and wanted to jump on the big courses, we'd move you over to the A's. No harm done. On Saturday afternoon, after the competition was over, I kind of walked through where you guys were all camped, and I said, okay, who wants to move up to the A courses? And you guys all looked at me like I was freaking nuts. Of course, Andrew never showed up to rock crawl. He was the one I wanted to go, yeah, you want to do this? Because I know you guys are big trails, big waterfalls and all that, but competitive rock crawling is a completely different sport. It's like motorcycle riding in the desert and trials riding.
For sure.
I mean, it is, there's a technique to it. The cars, you're forced into my line. You don't get a choice. You guys seem like you had a really good time.
Yeah. So, yeah, just kind of reminiscing back on that time. We had we have an Undertaker's website that we all log into, similar to Pirate, the old Pirate, and there was I can remember when it came up, who wants to do this We Rock down in Tucson, and this was right after King of the Hammers, the very first King of the Hammers that we raced the car in. So I'm like, well, I built it for rock crawling and doing a little desert race, and now let's do some let's get back to where we came from, because King of the Hammers that first year was really rough on us. We learned a lot of things right off the bat when you break an axle right off 14 miles into the track, and then you spend the rest of the day stacking rocks to try to get that thing over there, because we didn't bring any spare parts. So got the new axle in there, got that all straightened out, and this We Rock came up, and there was big talk from the guys on the crew that we were going to have 15 or 20 guys down there, and let's go show these guys what's up. And I went to a couple rock crawls. Sam and I took our kids to one in Congress that they had here when Big Rich was just getting going in the We Rock. And I knew it was difficult. And I was kind of like, don't poke the bear, guys. This is not. And he posted a couple things about Andrew did about how he talked to Big Rich, and we were going to get to do the big courses, and came back that we were going to run the sportsman type courses on the first day. I still actually have my trophies somewhere around here that where they crossed out the Toyota, was it the Formula?
F-toy.
Yeah, the F-toy. And put down a sportsman class. So I was one of the first sportsman class competitors. I got a third place, and then my good buddy got a first place that actually Uriel used to work for me. And he, anyway, long story short, we get out there and nobody shows up. It's Uriel and myself, the two Undertakers out of the whole group. We laid it out. We were camping and hanging out next to Shannon Campbell, who had his brother, and he was still competing back then. So, they're totally different rigs than what we had. And I knew it right off the bat that this was going to be a rough day. And I was the very first guy out, the very first obstacle, pulled up to the deal to set up to try to go through the cones, and drove up and panned the car out completely where none of the tires were touching the ground. I was going nowhere. Uriel he was my spotter. He couldn't push the truck, couldn't do anything. And it's a man-made course, so there was no rocks to even grab to try to stack to get under a tire. So it's a 10-minute deal, and I sat there for 9 minutes and 45 seconds spinning my tires. And they finally called it, and they had the crane of shame pick up my entire race car and carry it off the course so I could start driving again. But it was a long weekend. Definitely learned that I had to do things a couple different ways to try to compete in the rock crawling. And we did it for every time they were in Arizona. We competed for a couple years. Before I kind of went crazy with the car and added the bypass shocks and all that stuff, and lengthened it, and it just wasn't made to go in between cones. But the rock crawling, we always go to the events, and we have lots of friends, and I still don't think Andrew has competed in one. So
no, he hasn't.
Don't want to call you out, buddy. I love you, but put your money where your mouth is now.
There he goes.
I'm talking though. I haven't really talked to Big about this a lot. He's going to learn this now, but I hope to, when I'm going to build a buggy for myself just to do some recreational rock crawling, because the racing's fun and all that, but I really want to get it back into doing more recreational rock crawling. And I think there's something in the We Rock for us, for the guys that have the wide, full size axles with the 40s and stuff like that, and just come up with some sort of deal that it is a true recreational rock crawler. We got Justin Kyleman, who's he wheels in his all the time. It's competitive in the unlimited class, but it is narrowed, and there's a lot of things that his car has got rear steer and all that the guys that we go wheeling with they don't have. So we're gonna we'll talk some more about this as the off season goes. But even if it's just in Arizona, I'd like to put on in Baghdad. Hopefully by next year we'll have the true trail rig class where it's junkyard axles, nothing spider tracks or no fancy anything. It's got to be a junkyard axle. 40s are the only tire you can run. Not worried about shock packages or anything like that, and it's got to look like something. It had to start off with something. I got to see some frame. I got to see some, So I think we'll have a flying high type thing. I talked it over with Shelly. She said we'll talk about it later. But,
so you went behind my back and talked to Shelly first?
Absolutely, huh? I know how it works.
Yeah.
She
Some of you guys have learned that.
She did hit me with a lot of obstacles that I totally understand. I don't know if it could be. I think because of that, there's no way you could do it all over the states. But for maybe just something that we sponsor, Flying High does, and get Andrew out there and all my Undertaker buddies, and there's a bunch of clubs in Arizona. They come out to the events and they enjoy them, and they love watching the rock crawling. But they always talk about, I do this. You hear them talking in the stands. I could do this better. I could do that better. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's set up a course that is good for us, good for something, because your widths are a little narrow for our big cars, and we still got to be competitive, but more of just let's get these guys through. And I still don't understand how you make the courses. We've decided that you guys get on some peyote or drink some weird formulas or something like that, and you just go out there and drop cones, because I don't see how you come up with these courses and the gates and all that. And we volunteered a lot as spotters and also as judges and course, setting up the course and taking down the course, and we like to help out a lot with that. But I've never been there when you've actually set up the course, so we don't really know how you guys do it. But I know you did a lot of fun stuff back in the 60s, so I think it comes out every once in a while.
That could be it. Some people just think I'm evil.
Yeah, no, that's definitely when you're stuck in between two gates and trying to figure out how to get to the next one, and you're like, how is any vehicle supposed to make this turn to make that happen? And that's what makes it fun, is trying to figure those things out. So from a guy that's been in the seat to a guy that's been spotting, it is a blast out there. The rock crawling and the We Rock is a lot of fun. And if you haven't been out to any, you guys got to come out to these things. If you got a buggy that you want to be competitive in, build it. You will enjoy your time out there, and go with kind of the guys that use them on a daily basis, like a Justin Kyleman. He's got a really, really competitive car that it started out. I remember one of the first wheeling trips I did in my Explorer, Justin's in that same car, that four steering monster that he drives, and it was a Willys Jeep, had a ugly roll cage on it. He's only 5'8" or so, and I think the roll cage was built for somebody that was 7'2". So it just stuck out. It was bright yellow, and he beat the piss out of that thing just like he does now. But it's the same car that he just kept on building and building and building, and now it's got a turbo on it. I mean, it's nuts. But in between rocks, he's out wheeling, almost every weekend in that, and there's no reason not to get out there and enjoy. Here in Arizona, it's 30 minutes in any direction, and you're wheeling. So, get involved in that. Get out and enjoy it. Another thing that we haven't talked about during this interview, but you got to get involved in keeping our trails open and keeping, BLM. It's our land, guys. So we need to be involved in their decision making.
Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah. There's two BLMs now. So yeah, the Bureau of Land Management. Those guys are. Not as bad as the other one, as we can see right now, but they're trying to take away our rights to get out there and enjoy our land. I do believe that the land needs to be policed better, but I don't think it needs to be shut down. And they're trying to kill our trails and stuff like that. And Justin's one of those guys that you can tell when something's happened out there and they're cutting a trail or access to a trail and that sort of thing. That guy loses his mind because that's what he does. This is his escape from daily life and paying bills and stuff like that. And everybody needs that. You got to get out there and enjoy it. Mine is just about anything in a motor. If there's a motor involved, that's what I like to do. So it's cool to own a business that fixes cars and trucks and Jeeps and hell, we just had a trailer pull in here. So try not to say no to anybody and fix what they got, because I was on the other side of the deal and I want to make everything better, and I love doing projects and stuff coming out the way that the customer entailed it to be.
Let's talk a little bit about Flying High. That was a good segue into it. The history, they had a monster truck. They desert raced. You stepped in when it came up for sale, you and some family members, and now you're the sole owner, you and your wife. And I've spent a lot of time here in the shop. It's my go-to place when we're in Arizona. We spend a lot of time in Arizona in the off season. But let's talk about the business. What is it that you guys? Is there something you specialize in, or just give everybody an idea what you do?
Flying High opened in 1980. The original owner of Flying High, his parents owned Dicarbonics, which is they sold carbonation systems to like the bars and restaurants and that sort of thing. Their father started selling oxygen to the only hospital that was in Arizona when they first came out here. So the family's been in business here in Arizona for a long time. So fast forward to the Dye brothers, Mark and Mike had graduated high school and college and everything, and they wanted to start their own business, and they were into the off-roading. And in 1980, it was huge. Everybody was lifting their trucks and putting stuff on there, lots of chrome, lots of fun stuff. And they started Flying High together, and the specialty back then was lifting them high and putting chrome everywhere and stickers. I mean, they just the visors and all the chrome pieces and stuff was huge, and that's kind of what I saw as a kid growing up too. There was the Flying High they had 3 locations, and one was right by my house, and our family grocery store was on the way. There was a Flying High on the way to the family grocery store, so I'd always make my mom stop in so I could look at the monster truck. So you never saw a kid happy to go to the grocery store with his mom other than me, so I could go check out the monster truck, because that was kind of my treat for helping mom with the groceries. So that's kind of how I knew about Flying High. And when we had the opportunity to buy it, it was like a dream come true. It was like no way that something that I looked at back in the day growing up was going to be my business and my livelihood. So yeah, it's been a crazy time. Like I said, we did buy it at a weird time with the economy, and Mike Dye had actually stepped away and was running the family business, and Mark was the sole owner for Flying High. He had his fab shop that's where they built the trophy truck and that sort of thing. So he kept that part, and I just took the one location here on McDowell, the original one, and brought everything from the other 2 locations here to keep our overhead down. The rents over at the other places were a little higher than I wanted to pay, and just having all that, all those employees and stuff during that time, we needed to kind of, pay off some bills first and grow the company a little bit slower. So yeah, that those first few years of taking it over was, you were hoping that the money was going to come in like we saw with historicals on how it was going, but it started dripping and diving. And I think in 1 year we saw 11 other off-road shops here in the valley close down, and we just kept on paying the bills and pushing forward. And I was able to take, my uncle always said, you got to be able to take a penny and stretch it penny and to the point where it's like a fine wire, almost just stretch that sucker out. So we were able to do that, and it was difficult, but it was weird when the economy was diving. We were doing the same dollar amount just about every month. There was no big month. There was no bad month. It was just even quo, and we paid the bills and paid everything down as best we could. Like I said before, my business partners were kind of looking at it as an investment in their retirement, and it wasn't making any dividends for them, so they just wanted to step away. And at that time, I said, well, you guys did it as retirement. I took my house and put it on the hawk to buy the place. So if I walk away, I walk away from all that money taken out of the house. So I said, I got to keep it going. Plus, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And it actually became more enjoyable without having the stress of trying to do something for somebody else. That made it a little rough, and it strained our relationships with some family members, and it's getting better, but I don't know how I could ever make it back to the way it was. But we just, from that point forward, my wife and I said, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to have fun with this, and we try to do everything that we can that makes it fun for not only us but our kids, and then our employees. We love taking them to races. We love taking them to off-roading events here in the state. I've taken a couple down to Mexico. It's just the stuff that I got out of it, and why I love the sport and why I love the business. I try to transform and give it to the guys that come around here. We have a couple guys that don't even work here or work in the industry that come by, just want to hang around the shop and play race cars or work on their cars or whatever. So that's what I grew up around, and that's what I like, is helping people out, and also doing stuff that just like with football, everybody had a common goal, and every vehicle's got a common goal. We got to get to a certain spot with everything. So that's what I enjoy, and I think it's spread. We've got lots of people around us now, so we have a good time. The specialty that Flying High does, that was a question you asked. We try, like I said, we don't try to not say no to anybody. I don't have 57 JKs out there. I've got 3 JKs in the shop right now, but it's not, I don't specialize in one thing. We see a lot of old trucks just because we are the oldest off-road shop in Arizona right now. The oldest was Four Wheeler Supply, and they, unfortunately, they went away about 6 to 8 months ago, and now we're the oldest, and we're also celebrating our 40th year. So it's kind of a cool thing. Unfortunately, with the COVID thing, it's not really, I can do a lot with it, but we will be having some sort of party here before the year ends, a celebration of 40 years of Flying High. So with being the oldest shop in Arizona, we do get a lot of guys that I was there in 1982 and you guys lifted this, and so we sell a lot of t-shirts, give away a lot of stickers, and then we work on some older trucks. So those are actually more enjoyable working on like a 72 Blazer than working on a brand new Toyota Tacoma. There's just the newer trucks have so many different gadgets that you got to watch for, and with the new systems in them, they are a little bit more difficult. We can handle every one of them, but it's just the older trucks there's still good money in it. There's still good times in it. A lot of those guys, it was a truck that they might have had since high school, or they found another one and they bought it back, or bought a truck that is similar to the one they had, and they just want it to look like their high school days or college days or whatever. And we get them ready for them. And we've had everything in here from, we had a Bronco that was like a Strope Bronco or something, and was like one of 3. And the guy bought it at Barrett-Jackson, brought it in here, and I couldn't believe, you hear about the SEMA stuff that people do to get it to SEMA. What they do to trucks that go through Barrett-Jackson, they had the wrong doors on it for that year. I mean, there was just so many things that we had to change, and I think he probably had $60,000 into that Bronco that he bought from Barrett-Jackson, and we put another 25 into it just to make it nice enough for him to cruise on the street every day. We built trailers. We had guys come in with trailers that were cut in half, and we've welded that. We changed the flooring on the wood floor on trailers. We don't say no to anything. We've got a 2021 Chevy that we're doing a 14-inch lift on with monster tires and all that. The weird stuff you see. So to say what we we just do off-road. We just do, if you want something different, we're going to make it, different. Stock sucks. Everybody hates stock. That's my big thing. Stock sucks. We don't like to have stock trucks out there, so we change the tires, change the wheels. I mean, even just a newer truck with a small leveling kit and some different aftermarket tires and wheels, it just looks cool. It's not stock anymore. It doesn't look like everything in the parking lot, and that's what we like to build. We started getting into we did the garage rehab, and I'll talk a little bit more of that. But
I did want to touch on that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. But from that, I learned to go out and see bigger companies and see if you can do their fleet. And I've got a couple of fleet accounts, and we'll get 2 or 3 trucks a week and just changing oil and putting pads on them and stuff like that. Simple work for my guys. It's different, so it's not the same old thing, and it keeps them on their toes, and it's money. We're making money on it. So something that I kind of thought about doing but didn't really think that people would come here and have that stuff done. But with the one-stop shop that we can offer, we can one-stop shop your fleet too. We got guys that know how to do it, and they're good at it, and we get things in and out, and we understand that there's money sitting there. If that truck is in here, it's not making that guy any money. So they get a little priority, and we have guys that will stay late and get trucks done, and we're always trying to please our customers however we can.
So let's talk about Richard Rollins, or at least the show Garage Rehab. How did that all come about?
Well, when you buy a company that was built in 1980, things get a little old around here. The previous owner, he had a lot of things going, didn't put a lot of money back into the company. The machinery and tooling and just the building in general was under a lot of need for repair. We bought the place. I gutted it as best I could and painted and cleaned and did everything we could to try to make it new and nice. But owning it for almost 10 years at that time, it was getting run down again. And looking back at the pictures of the shop before and then looking at it now, I'm like, I don't know how anybody came in here. It was pretty bad. We did as best we could and kept it as clean as possible, but it's hard to clean old.
It's hard to polish old.
It is. So yeah, I learn that every day when I get out of the shower. I'm going to make this old guy young again. But I had a friend that watched the first Garage Rehab episode on Discovery Channel, and at the end of that episode it said, if you're interested in doing a one, or if you got a shop that you think might want one, call this number. So he had gone onto their website and took the URL, and he sent me an email. I still have the email. It's one I keep up top. It says, this is how my friends are too, by the way. The title said, if you don't do this, you're fucking stupid. So you had to open up the email and see what it was all about. And I'm like, Garage Rehab. And I looked, and it was like that bar rescue type of thing. And I was like, I don't really want a guy to come in here and yell at me. I'm doing what I can. I don't need anybody beating on me for what we got going on. And watched that episode, and they had a couple, I think they were on their second or third. So I kind of got hooked on it watching it, but I filled out the paperwork. I actually did it on my phone, and turns out after so many words, it doesn't let you submit. It was like a 500 words or less. I didn't read that, didn't see that. So I wrote the whole story of Flying High. So almost a 40-year-old company. You can imagine what I wrote down, and it wouldn't let me submit it. And I kept on trying to submit it, and it wouldn't go. So I cut and pasted it and saved it. And then I came to the shop, and I sat at the computer, and I just started typing it out again. And about midway through my story, it changed color. And I was like, oh, the font changed color. Well, I guess, what does that mean? Well, it wouldn't let me submit it after that because I was over the words. So I had to combine it and condense it down and make it smaller. Got it to 500 words, but I left the last sentence. We are a 40-year-old company. If you want to know more about our story, call me or email me, and I'll send you more. They called me 24 hours after submitting it, and they said, we know who Flying High is. Richard knows them from the past, and we'd love to talk to you about it. So it was about 6 months of almost every day doing Skype interviews and walking around the shop with my phone and recording kind of what we did around here. It was really weird, kind of cool and all that stuff, but it just, the hype building up of what could this be, and then watching the other shows, I was mesmerized. I thought that this was going to be the end all be all, and it was, I just overlooking the whole thing. It was definitely one of the cooler experiences that I've had in my life. Very, very awesome for the shop, and I wouldn't take back any of it for nothing. I had a absolute great time. But I can tell you this: there's a lot of Hollywood on there, and a lot of stuff. They took out a lot of things that I wish they could have had a whole week show. What they filmed here. They didn't show my wife or kids, which I got a little upset about because they were a huge part of it. There were some great scenes with my wife dealing with Richard and dealing with the other guys in the group. Russell was one of my. I love that guy. He's kind of a big Malouk too, so we hit it off real well, and just a great guy. Chris, the other host, is one of those guys that just likes everything. He digs into this and that. And I actually had a storage unit here on the facility that had some of my stuff that I pulled out of my mom's house when she moved, old U-Haul boxes and stuff. And that got moved around because I brought it here to the shop because we had it at a storage facility, and I forgot all about it. And it was just like old yearbooks and stuff like that, stuff you have in your attic. He opens up a box and he found something, and when I came here on Saturday when we were filming, he had this watch on and he kept on flashing it in front of me, and I'm like, what is that? And he said, you don't recognize this watch? And I said, I've seen it before. So he says, well, I found it in this box right here. And I looked, and they had pictures of me from high school with the mullet and all that other fun stuff. And I was like, and they were having a great time laughing at me. And I'm like, these are my personal things, you jackasses. But it was cool. But he kept on going back to the watch, and it was my grandpa's watch. He got it when he retired. It was some sort. It's a Olympus an Omega something or other that James Bond wore in his movies, and that's what made it very popular. It had some dials on there he talked about. I mean, he knew everything about the watch, and he said, I've already had it appraised as about a $7,000 watch, the way it sits. And I'm like, what? Just I had it sitting in this thing in the back of the shop, and it could have walked off at any time, and I didn't know anything about him. But so that just, they filmed all that. That would have been cool to see. I just know that there was a lot more to that show that they filmed here that would have showed a little bit more of our personality and stuff. But I understand, you got to show the stars on there and show their what they're doing and scared of going up in the flagpole and all that. I mean, it was all fun and games, and it put out a good show. But I think they could have showed a little bit more about the family and the stuff. We got in a pretty good argument about how I do things and how I learned it. Going back to the football thing is, I tell my guys, we're going to do one at a time. You're going to work on this truck. You're going to give it the best effort you can. Concentrate on it. You're not worried about lunch. You're not worried about the end of the day. You're not worried about the truck that's behind it. You take care of this one, and that was something I learned in college, one at a time. And we were going back and forth with it on the lifts because we only had one lift that worked. Well, we're going to knock out that one truck, and that's how I did it for the entire time, because we only had one lift that worked for 10 years here, and we actually got in a pretty good argument, but I think I won the argument, and that's why they didn't show it. They had to show their stars winning the argument or whatever, because I laid into them. I'm like, this is, you show me you can do more than one thing at a time, good. And it's just human nature, if you can't be scatterbrained and think about other things and miss out on stuff. You got to concentrate on what you got in front of you, and you're not worried about the next play. You're not worried about the next step, the next 10 minutes. Get what you got going and get her done, and do it the best you can, and then move on. But the show, it changed flying high. Just the original owner came by. He couldn't believe how nice and clean the shop was. We got floors that you can mop. We got walls that you can clean. We got equipment. Everything works in here. It just turned turned a corner for us, for sure. And I'm so grateful for them. So grateful that to have the opportunity. It did give the company some press, but like I said, when it was all coming around, I was getting this buildup of, we're going to be the next greatest off-road shop on the planet. Essentially what I got out of it was a great new shop and a little bit of press. So, I would never take anything away from that. So grateful. And we're just going to we're still doing what we did before. We got a nice clean shop and clean showroom, and the customers really like it. And, we'll just keep pushing on and doing what we do.
Excellent. What do you see for the future?
Well, as I'm getting older in the years, I'm sure we're going to probably tone away from me getting behind a race car and maybe let the kids drive and that sort of thing. My daughters both want UTVs and getting them into UTVs or something like that. So that's what you'll probably see around the race course with Flying High. But I can see me being out on the trails a lot more with my buddies, kind of going back to where I started, rock crawling and enjoying the desert. You'll see me at the races. I'm going to always be involved. I love King of the Hammers and the anything to do with four-wheel drive trucks racing in the desert. But also maybe a little bit more with some trophy trucks, and I got some friends that are racing those, and getting those across the line is a big challenge too. So I really look forward to those kind of things, and then spending a lot more time down in Baja. That's where you'll find me when there's no more Flying High. I'll be down there cutting up those papayas or mangoes or whatever, and getting overly sunburned. So I think that's kind of where I see my life going. My wife's kind of on board with that too. Anything with the ocean she's happy with. So that's kind of where we're going. As for the company, Flying High, I think if we just keep on, doing nice work and the name keeps spreading, and it was a big name, and without any advertising, I can tell you the advertising, that money I've spent has been maybe an entry fee for a race that was local. A lot of the stuff that comes out of the racing is based on what our sponsors can give us. So that doesn't really affect the day-to-day of Flying High. But I see that we haven't really done a lot of advertising. The internet, with social media, I'm reluctantly putting more efforts into that. We have a great gal, Cara Bernard, is doing our website, and not our website, but our social media. And she's just getting into it and starting. And I gave her something to do. I'm like, if you could just keep with one of our sponsors, and one of our the big products that we sell here is Titan tanks. They're aftermarket tanks for your diesel trucks, and it doubles, sometimes triples your mile range on your truck. And I'm like, we need to do a lot of social media with them. That's what they're asking out of us. And she's been on the ball. I mean, she finds good articles. She takes good pictures here at the shop. Her boyfriend works here, so that's really good when we have something in. He's able to take some pictures, send it to her. She can, make a little blog or whatever and send it out. And she's got me I haven't done it, but I guess we're tweeting now and whatever, all that other we're twatting. I don't know what all the little things.
Twitter, the gram.
Yeah. So the Instagram, she's pretty much taken away from me because it's under Flying High. So I got to start my own Instagram. And then I've always had the Facebook separated of my own personal, and then also the Flying High. So I've never really done a lot with the Flying High, but kind of send some things over to them. So she's concentrating on those. And, it's one of those where I didn't put any money into it because I didn't have anybody that was really interested. But when Gage started working here, she had approached me, and I said, this could be good. And I said, let's use that Titan, and whatever we sell in Titan that we pull off of there, I'll pay a commission off of. So just I could say over the years, just finding out little things like that. We it's weird. We do, as you were here today, we do some interlock installations and that sort of thing, which is the breathalyzers in cars, and it's just easy for people to come in and have us install them, or do they always have to be updated and all that stuff. So just knocking those things out. So we just find weird little things to bring a little more money and add a little bit more to the table. Arizona is a very, very competitive state when it comes to the off-roading market. There's places all over the place, and we are in the middle of town. You'll find that the outskirts of town, that's where the newer shops go. The land's a little bit easier to get, or the rents are a little bit easier. And so we deal with having to ask customers to drive 20 or 30 minutes out of their way to come down here to Flying High, and we still get them to do it. I've talked to a guy that he lived right next to an off-road shop, and he drove 25 minutes to get here. So as long as I can keep that up, I think Flying High still will be around, and we'll still keep on doing our things. Yes, I would like to open up another location or two. I hope within the next 5 to 10 years to have at least 2 more locations here in the Valley. That's going to come with, I'm going to have to find I can just see I'm probably going to have to come up with some sort of business partner or somebody that's got a little money to help us do that. And so we're open. If you guys give us a call, talk to me, send me an email. I'm looking to expand, and there's money to be made in this industry for sure, especially in Arizona. We've got a good name going, and we'll just keep on doing what we do.
Sounds great. Jeremy, I want to say thank you for sitting down with Conversations with Big Rich and sharing your life and your story with our listeners. I know that you just downloaded a podcast app. Got mine downloaded, and I think the Talent Tank. So Wyatt,
I'm a little
Jeremy's
behind.
Listening. Yeah, a little behind, but that's okay. That's all of us are. I mean, I just started this thing. So anyway, thank you so much, and for not only your friendship, but the racing that you've done, and just the family atmosphere. It's great to hang out with you guys. So I want to say thank you.
Absolutely, we're always here for you guys, and I appreciate having you guys around too. It's good to have friends that know a lot of people in the industry. Everybody talks highly of you and Shelly, and I'm glad that you guys kind of brought me in that very first event, and I knew that it was a cool group to hang around with, and you guys take some of the goofy stuff that we say and you add a little wisdom to it and keep us heading in the straight and narrow, and what you guys do throughout the country to keep the sport alive, because we all can say that rock crawling was kind of dying, and you guys brought it back to life, and I don't think you guys get enough credit for that, because it was definitely your hard work and your effort that brought it back to where it was. I think kind of helped start some of the bigger racing that's going on right now, and getting guys involved that normally wouldn't. If you make it easy to participate, you will definitely get more people doing it, because it's really not that hard. You really don't need a $1 million budget. You can get out there with anything, and man, a foot race is a good race, but it's always a lot more fun when you got a motor zipping around you. So I appreciate what you guys do, and I hope to keep you guys doing it a lot longer. I know we're all getting a little long in the tooth, but hey, we'll all go out in the sunset together.
There you go. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.